Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and thank you to the hosts for inviting me to join this excellent forum. I know we're very short on time, so I will be sharing a few PowerPoint slides, but hopefully we'll get through them quickly enough. Let me just... Okay, is everyone able to see my slides?
Yeah, I think we can see.
Good, good. Okay. So I'm going to build a little bit on the previous session where they're discussing the relationships between traditional and non-traditional security. And I'm looking at the changes in the nature of the international operating environment and the extent to which these provide new opportunities for new actors and new forms of international cooperation. So non-traditional security perspectives and new security challenges have seen the broadening of the scope of inquiry to include a focus on non-military rather than military threats, transnational rather than national threats, and multilateral or collective rather than self-help solutions. In 2005, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan referenced the interrelatedness of the three pillars of the UN by noting, "We'll not enjoy security without development, development without security, and neither without respect for human rights. Unless all these causes are advanced, none will succeed." Now, 20 years on, we can see that he neatly encapsulated the progress made by the evolution of security and governance conceptualizations, but also the ongoing challenges, that unless we're able to holistically address all of these challenges, we're doomed to fail in addressing any of them. But I think these challenges also represent noble opportunities for new categories of actor, and that's what I want to talk about today. Much has been written on the normative policy making of middle powers, but what I'm going to talk about today is deliberately a new terminology of second-tier powers, and also looking at new areas of cooperation that do not currently exist, but I think should exist, such as non-traditional security minilaterals and regional international commissions. So middle powers have generally been identified as those Western powers of middling capacity, which nevertheless have had significant impact on global normative governance initiatives, such as international commissions. Second-tier actors are identified here as having significantly greater capacity than most middle powers, and therefore also, I would argue, a greater responsibility to act. They can also be identified by their regional rather than global governance focus, and therefore may be more applicable for action in the Indo-Pacific. So the central research question I'm addressing is what role can and should be played by newly empowered or recognized actors in addressing non-traditional security challenges. First of all, I think we need to throw out the old, get rid of the continued dominance of the neo-realist, neoliberal duopoly in both theory and practice. Secondly, we need to challenge the ongoing primacy of the state in both domestic and international governance in this region. We need to challenge the ongoing hegemony of great state powers, both global and regional great powers, despite their abdication of constructive leadership and the systemic security threats posed by their competition. Indo-Pacific peace and security are more dependent upon great power leadership and cooperation than perhaps anywhere else. Yet such leadership and cooperation have hitherto been in short supply. In particular, the gravest contemporary non-traditional security challenges have been exacerbated by states following the dictates of national interest, as outlined by the dominant discourse, and by the abdication of leadership of the great powers. So how can we bring in the new, having got rid of the old? Well, new thinking on security has come to the fore, with input from academics and from practitioners in international organizations, and indeed middle powers. Many of the new governance initiatives have been promoted at, through and by the UN in the form of international commissions. They have featured prominently in consideration of non-traditional issues of global governance. International commissions have helped overcome and transform outdated thinking on international security, development, disarmament, environmental protection, global governance, nuclear non-proliferation, and humanitarian intervention. And I think there are several important takeaways from these initiatives. First, they all attempt to employ a holistic approach to the challenges of international governance, encompassing traditional and non-traditional security agendas, building broadly along the x-axis of issues. Second, they challenge the artificial legitimacy and centrality of the state, building along the y-axis of referent object. Third, they reject the dominance of great powers, demonstrating the considerable initiating and agenda-setting potential of middle powers, including historically West Germany, Sweden, Norway, Australia, Canada, etc., and indeed prominent members of international civil society. So the major global human security programs have been initiated by the medium-ranked powers, Canada, Japan, and Norway, in collaboration with the UN as the manifestation of global society. So a lot of this is to do with middle power agency. But middle powers are experiencing increasingly severe challenges in operating on the global stage, often coming up against not only the harsh realities of great power intransigence, also regional epistemological resistance to their normative universalism. This has led some commentators to think that the middle power moment is over. But I think there are several elements missing from the contemporary analysis of policy and policy prescription for new agents. First, a regional focus in terms of both aspirations and actors demanded by the particularities of the international management of relations in the Indo-Pacific. Second, an evaluation of powers that have greater than middling resources and therefore greater capacity to affect change, especially when these resources are concentrated within a limited geographic region. And third, consideration of avenues for activism and cooperation within the non-traditional security fields. So second-tier actors herein conceptualized as actors that have greater than middling resources, but also concentrate their resources into geographically distinct regions. They're distinguished from traditional middle powers, which have more limited resources, but also traditional middle powers have global aspirations. They're also likewise distinct from rising powers because they don't have great power aspirations, or if they do, used to, they no longer do. So who are the major second-tier actors and agents? Two regional actors certainly embrace the consideration described previously, Japan and South Korea. Other candidates for such agency can be considered in future, including ASEAN or some of its strongest member countries, and potentially Australia. In terms of capability, Japan has long possessed the attributes of a great power. Until recently, however, Japan has lacked the political will to be more assertive and to provide regional leadership in security. Indeed, it's been described as a reactive state in traditional security terms. Nevertheless, Japan has a lengthy history of proactive non-traditional security advocacy. Meanwhile, in hierarchical power measurement terms, South Korea has long been more than a middle-ranked power. Such are the geostrategic and geoeconomic constraints upon South Korea, however, that the country has been conceptualized as being stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Dr. Bandon, Professor Bandon, you have another 1 minute.
Okay. South Korea has also, however, been an important tradition of non-traditional security advocacy and leadership in regional organization initiatives. So rather than lament geostrategic inadequacies and challenges, it would benefit regional second-tier actors to divert at least some of their resources to cooperation to generate public values in ways that are not dependent on global consensus or on the involvement of the great powers. And I would argue these should include but not be limited to minilateral, non-traditional security cooperation of between 3 to 5 second-tier powers and regional as opposed to global international commissions. Thank you.